At the same time, you see what has been done in Lebanon and Iran, and you see forced expulsion orders. You see the bombing of civilian areas and civilian infrastructure. Some of those seem very similar to what happened in Gaza.
It's quite concerning what we're witnessing in the region at the moment. The scope and the scale of destruction in Gaza is outrageous, basically. And now we see more Israeli military operations in Lebanon, and also taking bigger steps to go to even to Iran, is actually putting the whole region at risk, especially with the reaction of the Iranians of trying to attack countries that are not part of this world, and countries that actually worked very hard to prevent the war from the beginning. Because what we need in the region, we need more diplomacy and less of escalation and less of military actions. What we see from Israel is more of military actions. We can also remember the Israeli strike in Qatar in September. That was using a military strike, using force against negotiating team. And this is what just shows us that since 2023, there was, since October 7th, there was a scale and diversion of Israeli way of dealing with the region and moving more into force than any other option. And this is, I think, resonate with Netanyahu himself. He tries to change the geography in the region. He mentioned that multiple times. He doesn't like Sykes-Picot anymore, so he wants to change the geography and the lines in the region. Also recently, when he welcomed the Indian Prime Minister, he talked about the alignments. It was his way of reading the region. He believes that the region is shaping up in a way that there is Iran team, and there is the Sunni team, and there is Israeli team. So he's trying to push the region for more of these alliance building in order to include more countries maybe on the Israeli team.
And it's not just Abdullah who's saying that, Gordon. That has been said by the man who was the mediator. The Oman foreign minister had some recent comments when he said the goal, he believes, of the military operation by Israel and the US is not just the nuclear issue. Part of it is to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state and weaken those who support that project. Do you share that assessment?
I don't share that assessment as far as it being a U.S. goal. The sad truth of the matter is that it's not at all clear what the U.S. strategic objective is in prosecuting this war against Iran. President Trump has offered a variety of reasons, some self-contradictory. One day it's the nuclear file, even though in June of last year he said the Iranian nuclear facilities were obliterated, quote unquote. Another day it's to protect the protesters, even though the protests were brutally suppressed by the regime in January. Another day, it's a more limited option of objective of sinking the Iranian Navy. So it's ever shifting and menu of rationales.
Okay, Gordon.
None of which have
Gordon, thank you.
Convinced the United States people.
Gordon, thank you very much. Gordon Gray and Abdullah Al-Taibi and Mohammed Saleh, our guests on Inside Story. Much of the world's attention may have moved on from Gaza, but coverage of what happens there is still a priority for Al Jazeera, with regular reports from our teams on the ground and further analysis on our website, aljazeera.com. As ever, we'd like to hear what you think. Go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story, or post your comments on X. There we are, at AJ Inside Story. I'll be back here again very soon. Until next time, from me, James Bays, and all the team, stay safe and well. Bye-bye for now.
As the war on Iran escalates, Al Jazeera's correspondents are on the ground.
The power projected by the Pentagon often succeeds in leading to regime change.
I mean, they're going to make more money than they've ever made before.
Yeah, we're seeing oil prices rise and the markets in general down.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces.
Are you concerned when Secretary of State Rubio says that the U.S. was going to attack Iran because Israel was going to first?
He said that this isn't a war about regime change, but the regime sure did change.
Stay with Al Jazeera for the latest developments.
Can you really bomb a political future into existence?
I don't think that's what we're trying to do. I think the objective here is to destroy the instruments of Iranian state power.
Let me ask you this directly. Is Israel effectively leading U.S. foreign policy?
They want to do a Gaza-like effort on the main power centers in Iran to kill thousands of people, not just the core.
Upfront tackles the big issues only on Al Jazeera.
On Counting the Cost. From Europe to Asia, countries are searching for alternatives to Middle Eastern oil and gas. What options do they really have? Is Russia the biggest winner? Who stands to gain and who will pay the price if the war drags on? Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera.
It is 1200 hours GMT, 3 p.m. here in Doha, 3:30 in Tehran. This is Al Jazeera with continuing extensive coverage of the war between the U.S., Israel and Iran. Hello, I'm Adrian Finnegan. The latest this hour. U.S. and Israeli forces bomb multiple Iranian cities in the early hours of Sunday. The death toll is now approaching 1,500. Iran retaliates against Israel, hitting Tel Aviv with missiles and drones. At least 3 people are injured. The U.S. president says that other countries will help his military secure the Strait of Hormuz, but none are so far promising to do so. But a border crossing between Jordan and Syria transforms to handle mostly goods destined for Europe, which would normally travel by sea. The death toll is rising in the conflict between Israel, the U.S. and Iran. More than 1,400 people have been killed in Iran. Millions of people are displaced, and the world's energy supplies are disrupted. Israel and the U.S. have launched more attacks on the Iranian capital. Buildings and streets in Tehran have been heavily damaged by the bombing campaign. Attacks have also been reported in the west and the south. In Israel, another wave of Iranian missiles has struck Tel Aviv. Many were intercepted, but some got through. Fires have broken out in several places. And as global shipping continues to be disrupted in the Strait of Hormuz, U.S. President Donald Trump is calling on allies to send warships to protect the area. He says that many countries are sending help, but hasn't said which ones. About 1/5 of global crude oil and liquefied natural gas normally passes through the strait. We are live this hour in Doha and Tehran, and later on the Syria-Jordan border and in Baghdad. Let's begin, though, with Al Jazeera's Tawhid Asadi, who's in the Iranian capital. Tawhid, Israel and the U.S. have intensified their strikes, as we said overnight. Dozens of people are reported killed in Isfahan, one of Iran's most popular cities. What's the latest?
Yeah, it's Iran's third most populous city, in which we have witnessed an intensified wave of Israeli and American strikes on the 3rd week since the commencement of the American and Israeli assaults targeting different places across the country. And we know that it's more than 200 cities being targeted over the past few days by these strikes. But Isfahan was very particular in the past 24 hours, since it was targeted when it comes to the military complexes and industrial complexes. And of course, some of the residential areas were also said to be impacted, running the risk of fatalities being increased to a next level. And on that, we know that according to the latest, they're saying that across the country, since the beginning of these airstrikes, more than 1,400 people have been killed. This is the official number, the recorded number, even though we know that seeing this ongoing nature of these strikes, we can unfortunately rest assured that this number could be even higher. And of course, when it comes to injuries, we know that many thousands have been also injured through the airstrikes of the Americans and Israelis, but the damage does not stop there. We've got the extraordinary damage not for the military or headquarters or police stations or buildings belonging to the state, but also when it comes to very residential areas. And on that, we've got this recent report from the Red Crescent Society of the country talking about more than 54,000 civilian units being targeted, most of them residential buildings, residential apartments, some of them including more than 6,000 commercial units such as shops and factories, more than 200 health-related facilities such as hospitals, clinics, and of course 17 buildings belonging or affiliated with the Red Crescent itself. And that is showing the very huge, extraordinary, massive amount of damage that when it comes to human costs, Iran is tolerating on the one hand. And then on the other hand, we know that the country has came up with a strong message, and the IRGC is talking about wave 54 of their retaliatory strikes to target the Israeli territories, the American bases, as the situation seems to be even further escalating, seeing what happened in the island of Khark.
Tahid, US President Donald Trump has urged other nations to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz. How is Iran reacting to that? I don't think that Tahid can hear us. We will move on. That was Tahid Asadi reporting live from Iran's capital, Tehran. As we have mentioned, Iranian missiles have targeted several locations in Israel where fire crews have been working to put out flames sparked by shrapnel. Al Jazeera's Nida Ibrahim has the latest on the strikes from Tamun in the occupied West Bank.
We are seeing these strikes coming in from Iran into Israel, but also from Hezbollah's side, from Lebanon into Israel. And sometimes these missiles are happening simultaneously at the same time, which is an attempt by Iran and Hezbollah to coordinate together to overwhelm the Israeli aerial defense system as well as increase the threats on the communities. We'll get to that in a minute about the impact that has caused on the communities. But first, let's talk about the latest barrage that hit Tel Aviv. According to medics, 3 people were lightly injured just now in the latest batch of rockets, and seemingly they have been injured by fragments or shrapnel that fell in southern Tel Aviv area. This is all in central Israel, an area that has been seeing its share of missiles being fired from Iran as well as Hezbollah. We are seeing pictures of cars being caught on fire as well as damage to the buildings and infrastructure there. And as you know, we are not allowed to report from Israel as a decision by the Israeli government to ban Al Jazeera from reporting there. But nevertheless, we continue to monitor these updates, and we've seen these latest waves of Iranian and Hezbollah-fired missiles into Israel, targeting different areas. So Hezbollah seems to be more focused on the north. This is, again, because of its low and medium-range abilities to fire rockets there. But also we're seeing Iran fire rockets into southern Israel, an area near Dimona, a city that Iran has said it will target because it has a nuclear facility, but also we're seeing some Hezbollah-fired rockets going into long-range, traveling long-range distances and arriving in central Israel. According to the Israeli authorities, they have indeed intercepted this long-range missile, but in total we're talking about at least 20 times that Hezbollah has launched rockets into Israel in the past 24 hours, and 15 times when Iran fired into different areas inside Israel.
Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Qatar also reported interceptions overnight. Let's go live to Al Jazeera's Dmitry Medvedenko, who is here in Doha. Tell us more, Dmitry.
Well, let's start with Saudi Arabia, Adrian, because there we've had a report recently that it's down 4 drones near the capital, Riyadh. And right before that, a similar report of 10 drones near Riyadh and in the eastern provinces. Now, the fact that these attacks are happening in Saudi Arabia are not surprising. What's interesting here is that specifically about that last one, those 10 drones, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a statement saying it has nothing to do with this attack and calling for an investigation to be launched for the Saudi Arabian government to find the true source of this attack, as the statement reads. Now, in Kuwait, there were several attacks there with the airport sustaining damage, the international airport in Kuwait City, sustaining damage to its radar, as well as the Ahmed Al-Jaber air base. Several drones hit that base, resulting in, according to the statement by the army, certain material damage, as well as 3 minor injuries among the personnel of the base. There were even pictures circulated of the Minister of Defense visiting them in hospital, saying the government there saying that their condition is stable. Now, the U.S. Embassy in Oman has said that all non-essential personnel and their families are to leave the country. That's a result of several attacks in the past couple of days, one of them resulting in the first fatalities in Oman. 2 people were killed there a couple of days ago. And in the UAE, we have had multiple alerts saying that there's drone and missile attacks happening. There were some explosions reported in Dubai, downtown Dubai, Dubai Marina specifically, with the authorities there saying that the explosions that people are hearing are the result of interceptions. Here in Qatar on Saturday, the Defense Ministry said 4 missiles were downed and a number of drones, without specifying the number, were also successfully intercepted. For now, on Sunday, we haven't had any alerts blasting on our phones and no reports of incoming attacks from the government. Adrian.
Dmitry, many thanks indeed. Well, a massive disruption to shipping in the Strait of Hormuz is forcing other areas in the Middle East to compensate. The Nasib Jabba border crossing between Jordan and Syria has transformed days after an agreement between the 2 countries to make transit easier. There are now long lines of trucks on both sides, mostly carrying goods destined for Europe, which would normally travel by sea. Well, armed groups in Iraq that are linked to Iran have released video that they say shows their recent attacks on U.S. targets. The pictures from the Iraqi Hezbollah brigades come from cameras mounted on drones. They appear to show low-altitude strikes on the U.S. Victory military base near Baghdad airport on Saturday. After the attack, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad called for American citizens to immediately leave Iraq, saying that there's a significant threat of attack. And there are reports of multiple homes being damaged by a drone strike in Erbil. Residents say that the civilian area was hit just after midnight, and there are no airports or military bases nearby. Let's go live out of Baghdad. Al Jazeera's Mahmoud Abdul Wahad is there. Talk us through the security situation, both in the capital and in northern cities like Erbil.
Well, Adrian, it's clear that the war in Iran is taking its toll. on Iraq, not only in security and in terms of security, but also in terms of economy. In terms of security, here today in the capital Baghdad, Camp Victory, which is home to U.S. military personnel, was targeted by a drone, and outlets, media outlets, Iraqi media outlets affiliated with Hezbollah brigades have shown a footage of a drone flying into or crashing into a building.